Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 1 of the Gridiron and Beyond podcast. I'm going to keep this message short before we hop into everything that we're going to be talking about. But I just wanted to thank everyone again for the support early on, especially on Facebook. That really popped off. It didn't, not as much as I thought it was going to, but I do really appreciate it. Everyone that subscribed to the channel so far, thank you so much. And followed on Instagram as well. Those two accounts are going to be posted in the description. I'm still trying to figure out the links for everything and why those aren't working, but as I get more experience with this, I pick up the microphone, I have the camera in front of me. I'll get more comfortable. The first video is up on the channel. I think I mentioned it. I'll look back on this first video and be like, man, I was really nervous. I was stuttering a lot. But those kind of videos are my thing. The main thing about this channel is sports talk, and that's what we're going to be doing today, of course. That's what this is all about. Before we get into anything regarding anything we're going to be talking about, I do want to talk about my teams. Now, this is not going to be a reflection of, like, for example, like you see behind me, the Lakers stuff. I'm not going to be a biased fan, and that goes for any sport, like the NBA, the MLB, and the NFL, and even some college football. I'm going to be very unbiased. Maybe there's a team or two that will catch some slack from me to where I show my biased colors. But for the most part, 99% of the time, we're going to be unbiased around here, just giving unfiltered opinions, and that's what we're going to do. But before we get into that, I wanted to mention those teams just to kind of lay it out there. And I'll start in the NFL. You see behind me the football. If you can see the logo, maybe not, I don't know. I am a New York Giants fan. It's been pretty miserable the last 10 years or so. But things are on the rise, hopefully, right? We'll dive into them more so down the road, and I'll talk about them probably on, like, again, Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. But the Giants, and why I'm a fan, it's crazy because it's the most, like, bandwagon reason you can possibly think of, but trust me, if I stuck with them since those two Super Bowls, guarantee you, I'm not a bandwagon of this team. Who would bandwagon right now to be a Giants fan? Let's be real. As much as I love them very much. Love-hate relationship. But the very first game I watched of the Giants was with my family, and it was the very first time they beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 42 in 2008. It was the 2007 season. And I just watched everybody root for the Giants, and I was like, I'm in. I want to be included. I don't want to be left out of this fandom. To find out, 4 years later, they won another Super Bowl. But after that, it has been misery ever since, for the most part. There's some fun moments in there, but for a lot of it has been hell on earth. So the hope is finally with a competent head coach and hopefully a young nucleus in there that they will be back on the rise soon and bringing relevancy to New York football, because the Jets haven't been doing no better than us either. So, but that's where the Giants fandom comes from. Now for the MLB, I stuck with the New York theme, and kind of for similar reasons. A lot of my family are Yankees fans. So I am a New York Yankees fan. I know, let me hear it, because the Yankees are, without question, one of the most hated teams in all of sports. And is it the championships? Is it the fans? Is it both? I don't know. It probably is both. But every chance I get, I'm watching them on TV. There's some games I do miss when they're in a little bit of a skid, which at the moment they're not in like a June swoon anymore, as we call it, but they're still not like what we're expecting them to be. But they are still one of the better teams in the American League. That bar is very low, though, this year, because the American League is an absolute dumpster fire. But they should be a perennial World Series contender this year, depending on the trade deadline, which we will get to, by the way, in this episode. But yeah, I'm a Yankees fan primarily because of family, and you're probably wondering, Giants, Yankees. Why am I a Lakers fan? Shouldn't I have just been like a New York Knicks fan celebrating the championship? Not necessarily. The NBA was the final sport I really got into. I was into football, baseball, and then basketball was like, oh, okay, I got to be a fan of an NBA team too, right? And I love playing basketball in my backyard, so I'm like, okay, I got to root for a professional team. And I didn't even really think about the New York thing. I don't know why. I just didn't really think about it. The first game I turned on, I forget who the Lakers were playing, but I saw this player right here, Kobe Bryant, and I just fell in love with his game. And since then, I never looked back. And again, kind of ironic, the year that I ended up being a fan was 2009, and that's when they beat the Orlando Magic in the NBA Finals, and then the very next year they won again. So I'm thinking, oh, this Lakers thing's kind of fun because, I get here and they win 2 championships. That's awesome. Like, more to come, right? Absolutely not. No, they fell apart. The very first stint of Dwight Howard and Steve Nash and Ron Artest, Pau Gasol, Kobe Bryant, people think that's going to be one of the greatest teams ever. It is actually one of the greatest disasters ever. And just to prove I have some ball knowledge, if you will, on the Lakers, because it's like, well, you're a New York guy, how are you a Lakers guy? I don't want to relive the days of Steve Blake and Shannon Brown and, Robert Sacre to me isn't ball knowledge. And to most people it shouldn't be because Robert Sacre, as we know, is the GOAT. It's a joke, obviously. But Jordan Hill and Ryan Kelly, this is what we had to deal with in the final years of Kobe being a active player. Absolutely bizarre. And then we had like the baby Lakers with Jordan Clarkson, Julius Randle, D'Angelo Russell, and then Kobe ended up retiring. It still baffles me that it's been 6 years since he has passed away. It's crazy to me. Time froze in that moment. So Kobe's my favorite player ever. I don't think anything's gonna ever change that. So I'm just blessed to have watched him play. I ended up going to a Lakers game in Boston, and that was the final game of Kobe in Boston. And the Lakers ended up winning that game, even though they won like 17 games all year. Crazy to say the least. But yeah, this is. If I haven't proved I'm a Lakers fan yet, so be it. And I wanted to mention this as well. I have some, not that I mention I have water on me, but I am a Oregon Ducks fan for college football. Oh, excuse me. And Oregon, it's like, okay, well, if you're like a New York fan, shouldn't it be a team closer to New York? And again, for Oregon, I didn't really connect the dots until like years later that, these guys that are in college, they go to the NFL. It didn't click for me for a while. I don't know why it took me so long to realize that, but in that moment, I like a lot of people, people fall in love with the Oregon uniforms, and that's what got me. But on top of that, I wanted to learn some players on top of that because the uniforms are nice, but it's like if you don't know anyone on the team, that's where my brain was going. And the first player I watched play for Oregon, the first player I saw was Marcus Mariota. Now, kids these days, they'll talk about Justin Herbert, rightfully so. They'll talk about Bo Nix. Nowadays, kids are talking about, 2 years ago, it was Dylan Gabriel, and now Dante Moore, who's a rising star. But the first quarterback I fell in love with at Oregon was Marcus Mariota. So since then, I stayed through it, and there was some rough years between Mariota and Herbert. But overall, that's why I'm fans of all these teams. So, and speaking of one of those teams, that is the Lakers, and we're going to start in the NBA today. So, that's just what I wanted to put that out there as to why I'm fans of these teams. I already mentioned that, but here we go. And again, I'm going to get better at this, being in front of the camera and repeating myself. So I'm sure it'll be mentioned, but early on, this is how it's going to be. There's a lot of things that happen in free agency, but the team that is one of the more active teams, and they had every right to be active because they had the most money salary cap-wise because LeBron decided to leave, was the Lakers. And they had a lot of money to work with. And I think I was at work when they did this. They made 4 moves in 35 minutes. That's bizarre to me. And it was like on SportsCenter. Like at one point, Shams was on, and he said every move, like while he was sitting down, and he even got one in as he was on the air. Pretty insane. But the moves they made, the big one I'll start with, Walker Kessler, 4 years, 130. It was a sign and trade, so they traded 2 unprotected firsts and 2 swaps. I called Walker Kessler the Lakers' white whale because even while Anthony Davis was a Laker, the Lakers were always interested in getting Walker Kessler, or at least our name was connected to Walker Kessler quite a bit. Excuse me. But ultimately nothing ended up working because I think Utah wanted so much. And they ended up getting a lot anyway, and actually a lot more than I thought they were going to. I thought the 2 firsts would have been good enough, but they also gave him 2 swaps. I like Walker Kessler. I think in this offense now surrounded with Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, he's going to get more offensive looks than he's ever gotten in his career. My concern with it, honestly, the only thing is the price, not the contract. I actually think the contract works fine. It's the amount that they had to give up, and both of those picks are unprotected in 2031 and 2033. In a hypothetical scenario, Luka is not happy. In a couple years, he ends up leaving the Lakers and doesn't sign an extension. The Lakers might end up being in a rough spot. So obviously, you're hoping it all goes well with Luka, having him stay around, and you still have Austin Reeves, and you hope to draft decently well, which past couple of drafts for Rob Pelinka have not been very good. Should be fun this year, though. I mean, from what we've seen from Cameron Carr, which why was he there at pick 24? I said it on draft night. Not really sure, but I ain't complaining. He's on here now, right? So glad to have him aboard. But those picks are in 2031 and 2033, and who knows what the league is going to look like in 5 to 7 years. And if the Lakers are bad in 2030 and they're bad in 2032, those picks become very valuable to Utah. So I think Utah did a really good job leaving with quite a bit. And while I do like Walker Kessler, I'm excited to see him and Luka and Austin Reeves all 3 together. It was a little bit too much to give up in my liking, but I'm still rooting for the guy. Obviously, he's now part of the Lake Show, so glad to have him. And then their next move was, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name. I'm just going to call him by the nickname that people have given him, and that is Mamu Sandro. I think it's Mamu Kalashvili. I'm pretty sure. I hope I got that right. Maybe I did. Who knows? 1 second. But we gave him a 4-year deal, $52 million for Mamu. He's a good player. As a defender, still got a little bit to work on, but he is a one of those like classic like Luka Doncic like pass it into the corner shooters, and he will make plays in that regard. So I like Mamu being a part of the squad, so not too bad. And then Quentin Grimes. For 4 years for $60 million. That was about the range I had for him. I thought he would maybe get between like $12 and $14 million. He ended up getting 15. And for 4 years, and we know Rob Pelinka, if you're a Lakers fan, we know Rob Pelinka loves his player options. He loves giving players player options. Each player in here also has a player option. Mamu has one. Grimes has one. And we ended up signing Colin Sexton. He has a 2-year deal for like $19 million. After the first year, he's got a player option. But yeah, I mean, Colin Sexton's a fun player. He's the Marcus Smart replacement, if you will. I I don't mind it. I mean, I probably would have brought back Marcus Smart for less money because he ended up going to Houston for like $6 million less, or the math on that's like what, like $3 or $4 million per year less. Personally, I would have just rather have Marcus Smart back, and we ended up losing Luke Kennard, and they traded DeAndre Ayton for Jaden Hardy, which I don't mind Jaden Hardy, but more so was just to get money to get off of DeAndre Ayton, which they then used to sign Kevon Looney, which I don't hate as a backup big man. I think he could work well with Luka in the pick and roll if he's not on the court and Walker Kessler is not. And then the last two moves the Lakers made that are coming to my head right now, anything that's not like two-way deals or anything like that, are the $3 million deals they gave out to Zaire Williams and Matisse Thybulle. And these are the kind of players that the Lakers needed on this team. When you talk about the shooting that they added to the team, like Grimes and Mamu, they needed guys that also can defend. Zaire Williams is like, 24 years old, 34% three-point shooter. Maybe as time goes on, he'll improve, and being in this situation where he's not on the Brooklyn Nets and now on the Lakers with a lot of way more stardom around him, maybe this is where he blossoms into being a maybe 37, 38, 39% three-point shooter. And Matisse Thybulle, the only problem I've really had with him is his health, but when he is on the court, he is one of the better defenders in basketball when given the time. So I like the Matisse Thybulle signing a lot. And Zaire Williams, knowing Rob Pelinka, I'm shocked he wasn't the first guy we picked up. I really thought he was going to be the very first name that we signed. But ultimately didn't happen. They had a workout with him to get him to sign. And that's great, just doing your due diligence. And that's what we have for the Lakers as of right now. We're still kind of waiting on the Jonathan Kuminga thing. Lakers have been interested in him in a while, trying to do a sign-and trade with Atlanta. That would probably cost like Jared Vanderbilt, Jake LaRavia, that last pick swap that they have. So we'll wait and see. But as of right now, Kuminga still wants more money than what we're trying to give him. And I think, honestly, the LeBron thing's kind of intertwined with that. I feel like a lot of people, and that was even the rumor that once LeBron signs, the next wave of free agency is going to hit and teams are going to start signing more people. LeBron's kind of the domino waiting to fall. So we'll see. But that's really it right now on the NBA. So I'm going to move on to the MLB portion of this pod. And I could talk about records with teams and everything like that, but there is something exciting coming up in the MLB, and that is the MLB trade deadline. For anyone that doesn't know what the trade deadline is, it's a period of time, and every sport has this, to where this by a certain point, teams can make trades. So that usually how it works is the teams that are not so great end up. The teams that are not so great, that when they have guys that are on like 1 year contracts left, or maybe even having 2 years left on their deal, maybe even depending on the haul that you can get, you get rid of people that have like 2.5 seasons left, 3 seasons. And basically they trade their major league players for younger talent, aka prospects that are down in the single A, double A, triple A. And they have like rankings for all these teams and their prospect systems and everything. It's pretty crazy to dive into, and all that fun stuff. But for I don't actually have a script for this, so I'm kind of just going to go off the noggin here, if you will. But I'm just trying to think of certain teams that, we know the buyers, right? The buyers at this point are going to be Atlanta, the Dodgers. You know, everyone groans when you hear the Dodgers, but they're the Dodgers. They're going to be looking to add pieces to this team, obviously. Another one that people groan at is the Yankees, of course, right? And then the Phillies, the way that they've bounced back this season. I'm going to give my arm a rest here. The Phillies, the way that they've bounced back has been a lot of fun to watch. So they're going to be a team to absolutely buy in. Milwaukee, Chicago. So the teams that are very much a perennial World Series contender, imagine that they're going to add somebody at the deadline. But when they add someone, they of course got to take away from somebody else. So you look at those teams like Colorado, San Francisco. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Toronto even could be a team that sells. I cannot believe the fall that the Blue Jays have had. They just made the World Series and were an IKF, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, mishap from winning the World Series, and yet they are 10 games under 500 right now. It's insane. So the Angels should sell, but everything you hear from that owner that Angels fans can't stand, it seems like that they're just going to be sticking with what they got. Maybe they'll trade off a couple pieces. Personally, I think they should just fire sale. Just try to get as much young talent as you possibly can. The Mets are absolutely going to be sellers to a degree. Not exactly sure how much of sellers they're going to be because they got a lot of talent they could get off of, but it does seem like they want a lot for certain players, which is understandable, right? The Mets system absolutely needs more resources in it because the pieces that they have tried to trust into simply haven't worked. Like Mark Vientos, which I'm sure Mets fans want off of really badly. Francisco Alvarez has just been too inconsistent, not staying on the field. The trade they made for Freddie Peralta, I guess we'll just dive into who could get traded. Freddie Peralta, I feel like, has to get moved by the Mets. He's on the final year of his deal. There was a rumor he wanted like a 7-8 year deal, like similar to what Max Fried's getting right now, which the way he's playing, why would you give him that contract, right? It doesn't make any sense for any team to do that. So maybe the Mets environment just simply isn't for him. So maybe it's somewhere else that he has to go to. Trying to think of teams for him. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I don't know. Maybe Milwaukee just comes in again and just be like, hey, we made a mistake, so let's just like bring you back to what you know. And the Brewers, with that pitching factory they have over there, I don't know why they wouldn't consider this, because they just find a way to lose talent, but then it just feels like they haven't really lost anything. Like when they lost Corbin Burns, they were able to find pieces to make it work. When they lost Freddie Peralta, they found things to make it work, like Jacob Mizorowski, who is probably the front runner for the Cy Young Award. And even I know the Red Sox are on a run right now, but the trade that the Red Sox and the Brewers made, where the Brewers ended up getting Kyle Harrison, a guy that the Red Sox could never figure out. I mean, look at Kyle Harrison now. I know he wasn't an all-star, which I don't know how he wasn't. He had like a 2.4 ERA this year so far, and he's still pitching really well. So for Freddie Peralta, I mean, you got to just think about those teams that I mentioned were perennial World Series contenders, but the Mets absolutely, at the very least, need to trade Freddie Peralta. Not a question. The team that's my fire sale team at the deadline, fire sale basically meaning selling everyone off, and making the most trades at this deadline, it should be the Giants. San Francisco, that is, not New York. San Francisco, the Giants. Because they have a lot of guys on those one-year deals that can make it work. And I think they have some pretty obvious ones, like Robbie Ray absolutely should be a guy that gets traded away. But the main guy I think everyone's looking at in San Francisco to get moved is Luis Arias. Now, Arias is an interesting case because for a while it was like, okay, this guy's a great hitter. He hits for average every year seemingly. I think except for last year, he batted over 300, and even to the point where he was batting like 320, 330. This year he's batting 330 as of right now. But the problem with him is he just has simply not been a great defender, except for this year. He's all of a sudden figured it out, and he's been really solid. I think his away and home splits are definitely different, to the point where like it would be maybe concerning for some teams to trade for him because I think he benefits from being in San Francisco. But this is still a really solid player that would add a lot to the team. I mean, you look at my Yankees and look at the splits of Cody Bellinger. He is a way better player in Yankee Stadium than he is outside of it. Does that mean Cody Bellinger is a bad player? Absolutely not. So Arraez is going to a different team. I don't think would hurt. Trying to hurt a 330 batting average is relatively easy. You're going 1 for 3 essentially almost every game. So there's going to be maybe some games where he goes like 0 for 3, 0 for 4. And that's just baseball. Baseball is a really weird sport. It's a really psychological sport if you really think about it. But Luis Arraez, if I had to take a guess, I don't know about where he ends up, but just teams that are going to be in the mix for him. As a Yankees fan, I am not a big fan of the Tampa Bay Rays. I don't like them. I don't get every year how they are just so good, except for last year. They had a lot of injuries. But every year in, year out, they're like a fly in your ointment. They're just always involved in the race. When they just not that they have no business being there, but it's like they don't spend the big money like these other teams do, and meanwhile they are just right there. And not that you need to spend money to be a perennial, contender, but I guess history shows that is the case. But the Rays have figured out a way to develop talent and make the right trades. The one that comes to mind right off my head is the Chris Archer trade, where they traded him away and they got. Absolutely brutal trade. I'll try and find it one of these days because I forget what they got. But it's bad on the top of my head right now. I didn't have this written down, obviously. That was the trade I believe they got Austin Meadows from, and this was before Austin Meadows went to Detroit. Because Austin Meadows in Detroit was a disaster, but in Tampa he was an absolute stud. But there was another piece in that I'm forgetting, and I sincerely apologize because I should remember that trade. It was a really notorious one. But back on topic, the Rays are an absolute great fit for Luis Arraez. And I hate it, but that's the type of baseball they play. Contact and get runners on base, stealing bases. This is what the Rays are. So, and I feel like a lot of people have mentioned that one, like John Heyman in particular, that said that Luis Arraez to Tampa is a great fit. I'm with him as well, as much as I don't like it for my Yankees. I don't mind the Yankees as a fit for him either, but like at a certain point when you think about like the Yankees, they have a lot of players that I want to say a lot of good players. I mean, they do. They're a really solid team. But they have a lot of guys that are considered like MLB ready, and like not everybody can play every day. So if you have Arraez at second, and then we're gonna move Jazz again off of second to third? Because then what do you do with Ryan McMahon, who's swinging a pretty decent bat right now, and then shortstop is Jose and Volpe. Like where do you figure out all these people in the lineup? So it'll certainly be fascinating when we get to the deadline with that. So San Francisco, I think is a team to absolutely sell. San Diego is also really interesting one, and kind of mentioned the Yankees again. The big piece that everyone's kind of keeping an eye on for San Diego is Mason Miller, the closer. And one of the best closers in baseball, if not the best closer in baseball. If you think he is, totally don't argue with that. How do I feel? I don't know. It's really up in the air with him and Chapman. It's been a dogfight between those two for sure. But the Padres just traded for Mason Miller not even a year ago. We're coming up now in a year of the Padres having Mason Miller, and all of a sudden they are thinking like, hey, this whole thing that we're doing isn't working. We're not a perennial World Series contender like we should be. And, depending on how this lockout works and everything, we got to save some money. And not that Mason Miller is making a lot of money, but down the line he certainly could be. So you can maximize the value for Mason Miller by getting a lot for him right now. And reminder about the Mason Miller trade, they traded away the number 2 prospect in baseball. I mean, and some people even believe he's the best prospect in baseball in Leo DeVries. So I'm not saying you're going to get someone like Leo DeVries, but you can get quite a bit back for Mason Miller. Trying to think about the Yankees. The 2 teams that come to mind and the 2 that I've heard are the Yankees and the Mariners. And both can offer a pretty decent package. The Mariners actually can have a more intriguing package if you package both of their top pitching prospects, Ryan Sloan, Cade Anderson. Especially Cade Anderson. He is unbelievable. And to me, he's a future star. I'm just going to put that out there. Hopefully he's a future star one day and we can look back at this. The Yankees have a interesting package. They don't have the top end pitching prospect talent that the Mariners do, especially starting pitching, but they can offer up some solid players. Dax Kilby could be one of them. Maybe Carlos Lagrange. That's how you say it, by the way, Lagrange, or more of an accent on it, obviously. So you could offer him. The Yankees are really high on him, though, so not sure if he would be. But he's training right now to be a reliever, so maybe they just call him up if the Mason Miller talks fall apart, or maybe they just trade him for Mason Miller. Possibly so. Ben Hess could be involved in that conversation. Maybe Chase Hampton. People kind of forget he still exists. He's still recovering from Tommy John. Bryce Cunningham is another name. So the pitching talent's not completely there, compared to Ryan Sloan and Cade Anderson. But the Yankees can put together a package if they really want to. But I'm going to end it there with the trade deadline talk, I think. I'm just trying to think of names and things aren't coming to mind. But there will be more to talk about with the deadline. I guess the last name I'll mention is Tarek Skubal, but I'll get to him in a second. I just want to talk about the Yankees' bullpen situation, because I feel like a lot of people think that the bullpen is really bad and they need Mason Miller. He's the missing piece. You look at the Yankees' bullpen, it really isn't that bad. It's not it's not like I don't know what the word is, but you look at the stats, and look, stats don't lie. Even if it doesn't feel like it, the stats back up that this is one of the better bullpens in all of baseball. Now, here's why it doesn't feel like it, because I looked at the stats and I went, wow, our bullpen's a lot better than I thought. It doesn't feel that way because I watch guys like Jake Bird and Camilo Duvall take the field. The Yankees fans that know me know. You watch Jake Bird and Camilo Duvall, you don't feel safe at all. But you look at some guys that have played well for the Yankees bullpen this year. Brent Hedrick has been fantastic. Paul Blackburn, I didn't have a lot of expectations for him coming into the year because last year I watched him pitch and I wasn't overly impressed. But this year he's figured it out. We've seen a little bit of Angel Shavili. I'm pretty sure that's how you say his name. And he has looked great through 10 or 11 appearances, whatever it's been. I've really enjoyed watching Fernando Cruz. Sometimes he can be a little bit of a headache. The control's not completely there, but I love Fernando Cruz. He is a fan favorite for me. And since May 18th, I believe the date is, we have not seen a run allowed by David Bednar. Let's knock on wood, right? But he has been fantastic as well. The idea of adding Mason Miller is if Bednar ends up leaving in free agency, which he will be a free agent in a couple months, obviously barring the whole lockout thing, that will be talked about at a later date. But Mason Miller is a backup plan. Say David Bednar ends up getting more money elsewhere, or the Yankees get Mason Miller. He's like, oh, well, I want to be the closer. And the Yankees are looking at the situation going, well, we have a closer, and this is going to be our guy for the next couple of years, and then we'll pay him when he's ready to get paid. So the idea of a Mason Miller trade totally makes sense. Do they desperately need Mason Miller to get them over the top? Not necessarily. They can add a reliever or two to what they already have, to where they're not giving up an arm and a leg to do so. But am I opposed to trading for Mason Miller? Absolutely not. He's one of the best closers in the game. And as I've alluded to before, you think he is the best closer in the game, I'm not going to argue with you, right? I'm simply not. So yeah, that's where we're at. And I was going to mention more things about the Yankees, what they could add. Apparently, the rumor said two outfield, not outfielders. It was one outfielder. It was a catcher, and it was two relievers. So if they want 4 pieces in general, it would make sense. They added 5 pieces last year at the deadline, and they were really active, and they got rid of a solid amount of talent. And catcher being one of the things they need now. Maybe you wouldn't need catcher as much if you didn't trade away a catcher in every single trade that you made last trade deadline. Because they put all their stock into Austin Wells, and Yankees fans got to feel the same way I do about Austin Wells. He's simply not good enough. And I'm not exactly sure what it is. Maybe he's just simply not a good baseball player. The thing is with Austin Wells is I actually really like his defense. I think he's a solid defender. He's a solid framer. Not that it really means as much anymore with the whole pitch clock thing. But he's a solid defender. He just simply can't bat. Batting average is an overrated stat. But it's not when you're batting 160. you gotta at least bat like 200 at the very least, because even guys like not this season, but season, I don't know if it was 2025 or 2024. Kyle Schwarber batted like 199, 200. But how many home runs did he hit you? Hit you 55 home runs. So, again, I'm not expecting that many home runs from a guy like Austin Wells, but I'm just expecting something better than what we've gotten from him. So, catcher makes a lot of sense to add to the deadline. Ryan Jeffers, if they want to go all out, maybe a guy like Hunter Goodman, Shea Langoliers. Probably be tough to pry either of those guys away from Colorado or the Athletics, respectfully. A guy like Ryan Jeffers probably makes the most sense, coming off an injury, but he's now back into the equation in Minnesota. He's on a contract year. Minnesota is not a World Series contender. In the American League right now, maybe they still have a shot at the wild card. They're not like incredibly far out to where they're like not a consideration, but they're not like in the mix either. So what the Twins should do, and they did this last deadline, maybe not sell like every single piece off, but you should be able to get some prospect talent back, because again, when you get to this lockout, who knows when you're going to be able to make these trades and what the value is going to look like. So we'll find out. The only other piece, I'll get back to him right now just really quickly, is Tarek Skubal, and then we'll move on to the NFL. But for Skubal, the rumor, according to, I think it was Jeff Passan, I saw his article on the top 100 MLB trade candidates, Skubal, of course, being number 1. Apparently, the consensus or the idea is that he's not going to get moved. Apparently, Skubal would prefer that too. And I get why he would prefer it, because, sometimes these midseason trades for the players can be stressful. It's like they're in a spot and then they have to, they got to move, and they got to, get their families and move them to a completely different place. And especially when you're considered a rental, you don't even know if you're going to be there long term. You're only there for like 60-something games. And then it's like, okay, well, now I'm a free agent. Now I go somewhere else, and now we're moving again. So I get why he wouldn't want to leave during the season. But if you're the Detroit Tigers, you have to trade Tarek Skubal. Have to. Don't do what the Angels did with Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani, in my opinion, is one of the greatest players of all time, if not the greatest talent we've ever seen play baseball. The Angels had a chance in 2023 to trade him. I believe it was to the Tampa Bay Rays. The rumored package was Carson Williams and Junior Caminero. Tell me how Junior Caminero is doing now. He's one of the best third basemen in all of baseball, and he is absolutely electric. Could have had that. But instead, you try to buy in for one last push with Shohei when you knew he wasn't going to re-sign with you anyway. Now, the Tigers now are better than what the Angels were in 2023. So, and especially with the American League being as bad as it is, as I've kind of already alluded to, maybe you can get away with keeping him. But even then, you look at the Tigers and the contract negotiations that have happened with Tarek Skubal, they've been a disaster. They went to arbitration, and they had like a whole thing in court. They took him to court. It's like, oh, I'm taking you to court because I think you deserve less money than what you're asking for. Already there is a problem, and they have talked contract before the season. It didn't work, and it doesn't help. I mean, that Tarek Skubal is a Scott Boras guy. Scott Boras guys don't talk contract extension during the season. They wait until after the season, and we know obviously with how the CBA negotiations go, maybe there's a chance once it gets finalized, Detroit is able to lock up a guy like Tarek Skubal. Maybe Tarek Skubal would want to stay there. But as of right now, I don't see a path to where he comes back and to where they can even agree on anything. So if I'm Detroit, as much as it's going to hurt, as much as it's going to suck, because he has won you 2 Cy Young Awards, you've gotten to the playoffs with him. He's pitched in some big games, and he is the most recognizable face on the Detroit Tigers. To me, it's time to move on. It's time to move on and get what you can now, because it's better to get something for him now and build something for your future than to try and win this year when you're not a perennial World Series contender, so inevitably you're going to run into the wrong team. And then once the season ends and you haven't won the World Series, a big team comes in and gives him more money. And we know the teams, right? As of right now. Dodgers, Yankees. I mean, I know the Mets aren't particularly great right now, but the Mets are going to be involved. We know that. It's Steve Cohen, the Atlanta Braves, the Philadelphia Phillies maybe, with Zach Wheeler coming up on his career in a matter of a season or two. Those are the teams you got to think about. And can you compete with those teams in bringing back Tarek Skubal? I just don't simply think you can. So I love Skubal on Detroit. I think it's great. But I think inevitably the inevitable is going to strike, and he's going to end up on a big-time contender. So if you know that's the case, do us all a favor. Trade him. Get what you can. It's going to suck in the moment. Don't get me wrong. But you're going to look at this back then and go, and depending on who you get, obviously, and you're going to hope that it pans out, because prospects are never a guarantee. The Nolan Arenado trade I look at particular with and at the time even the Rockies got hosed when Nolan Arenado went to the Cardinals, and no one worked out there. So again, prospects may not work out. Just because you get a top end high prospect talent, it doesn't mean they're going to be a perennial all-star. But the guys you get in the trade, whoever it may be, whoever you are trading them to, you're going to hope that you get the best out of that trade, and you'll be thankful for it. Because if Skubal is just leaving in free agency, you know what you get? Nothing. You get a draft pick. That's what you get for one of the best pitchers you've ever had. And that won 2 Cy Youngs for you guys. So just make the deal, Detroit, please. But we're going to get into the NFL. And over the next couple of episodes, I'm going to be doing division previews for the upcoming season. There's obviously some things I could talk about, but we are on the cusp of football. I think it's like 52 days away, or is it now 49 days away or 48 days away, whatever it may be. I know the first game this year is on a Wednesday because they have a Thursday game in Australia. So I think it's 48 days away as of the recording of this video. So I'm going to be doing some division previews, just talking about, I did write some notes for this. I wish I could name every single player, backwards and forwards. But sometimes you still need notes for these sort of things. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about by each division. So we're not going to do all 32 teams in one recording. That would be ridiculous. So we're going to split it up into the 8 divisions. So today we're going to talk about, the NFC South. The NFC South, everyone's favorite division with the win-loss records that they have. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to start with the team that ended last in the division. So we'll go from 4th to 3rd to 2nd to the winner. And we'll kind of just talk about the team and the outlook of it, how it looks. We'll maybe give some expectations and just simply chat about it. I mean, nothing too crazy about it. So we'll start with the team that finished in last place, and that is, I have it on the right side. Okay, cool. The team I'm going to start with is the New Orleans Saints. The Saints. They are marching into a new season with, I think for the first time in a while, some expectations of being really solid. And this is a really wide open division, so I think a lot of these teams are going to have that, because I don't think there's a team in here that's going to win 4 games, but I don't think there's anyone that's going to win 11 or 12 games. So it's a really wide open field to where teams are going to win between 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 wins. So if the last place team has 6 wins and then the other team has 8 or 9, that is a really wide open field to keep things really interesting. So for the Saints, I don't need notes for every single thing. I'm just going to keep it right on my lap over here. But the Saints at quarterback is Tyler Shuck. Funny story about Tyler Shuck, of course. I got to pick up that piece of paper. I'll do that in a second. But for Tyler Shuck, he was actually the quarterback at Oregon after Justin Herbert. A lot of people may not remember that. A lot of people might just remember Tyler Shuck doing really solid at Louisville and, being a 2nd, 3rd round quarterback prospect. But no, he was at a couple schools before that. He was at Oregon, he was at Arizona, he was at Texas Tech, ended up at Louisville, and he had a really solid year. And I was critical of Tyler Shuck coming out of the draft. I feel like a lot of people were. And my reason for that was simply his age. And it might have been some quarterback things as well. I'm going to pick up this paper. Hold on. Excuse me. But the main thing with me for Shuck was his age. And you're going to see this as I go on when I talk about college football in future episodes. And we relate that to the NFL. When players enter in the NFL we see some today that are 20 years old, 21 years old, 22 years old. Those are the kind of players that I'm going to gravitate to more if I like the way they play. If they're 23, it depends on the prospect that they are. Like Joe Burrow is a generational talent coming out of LSU. He had obviously one of the better quarterback seasons of all time. He was 23 going on 24, but you knew he was going to be destined for greatness and be a franchise guy. And he is. But when you see guys that are 23, 24, 25 and are 2nd, 3rd, 4th round talents, that's where I personally would take them off my board. Because when you have the players that are 21, by the time their rookie contract's up, they're going to be 25, the same age that the guy that's 25 is coming into the NFL. So by the time he's in his year 5 season, the guy's 29, 30 years old. And we've seen the NFL, as of recently, give up on players when they see their age and they're 29 or 30. They just wait until after the draft to sign them, and they sign them to one-year deals until their career's over. But for Tyler Shuck, I like the way he played this last year with New Orleans. Now, Is it a case of him beating up on bad teams? Maybe so. But he looked good while doing it. So now still having the same head coach and some more weapons around him, there is a chance for Tyler Shuck to take a pretty solid year 2 jump. So we're going to obviously find out and see. Now, just going to mention their backups as well, because we see the backup quarterback sometimes often, depending on injuries and everything like that. They still have Spencer Rattler, and I'll just mention the third string QB just because it's just, I just found this fascinating. I did remember he was on the team, but some people might not remember. They have Zach Wilson as their third string quarterback. Pretty insane, the fall off of Zach Wilson. Jeez. That's all I really got to say on that. Jets fans, you're very familiar with Zach Wilson. Running back situation-wise, I got to give it to him. This is one of the better ones if they're on the field. They signed Travis Etienne. I got to get used to saying Etienne because it's spelled like ETN. And for years, people said ETN, but he's went into his introductory conference with the Saints and said it's Etienne. Okay, I'll respect it. I'm going to probably butcher it and say ETN sometimes, but Etienne it is. And they still have Alvin Kamara, and they just agreed to a restructure on his contract, so he's going to be there. And Alvin Kamara last year was riddled by injuries a little bit. They had guys like Audric Estime and Devin Neal taking carries, which Devin Neal, I imagine, is going to get some touches, depending on the game, right? He could be like another guy we'll talk about in a little bit. In the same division. But Etienne and Kamara sounds like a lot of fun. This could be a really run-heavy offense, especially when you get to the receivers, which the receivers aren't bad. It's just there's potential if they are on the field, and in particular one person, and that is rookie first-round pick Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson, for me, could have been my wide receiver 1 on the board in the draft if it wasn't for his injuries. Simply put, the guy has just had so many different injury concerns. And even now, there were some things about his like hamstring. He wasn't practicing and everything like that. So, we'll see when we get to week 1 and how much preseason time he gets and if he's up to speed with the playbook. Maybe it's a little bit of a slower year for Jordan Tyson. Year 2 is a little bit more of that jump that he takes. But we'll see. But I do like Jordan Tyson in this core paired up with Chris Olave. Again, Chris Olave is a case of also being a guy that has had some injury history. But at the very least, Chris Olave hasn't had like he's had freak accident like concussions. He hasn't had like the muscle tightness, like hamstring, like knee problems, like a Jordan Tyson has had. So if those two are on the field together at the same time, I really like that duo a lot. The depth behind them is not my favorite overall. Devon Velley still there. This is a guy they do really like in the building. So maybe Devon Velley takes a step up in the core. And this is probably another name people totally forgot they have. And maybe this is the breakout of Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk was a second-round pick by the Patriots. Did a year there. And after that, there was some like drama surrounding him and the Patriots, and the Patriots just didn't want anything to deal with it. So they traded him to the Saints, and he didn't even get to play in 2025. I believe he was injury-riddled. But now he's healthy. He's ready to go, and I think this could be very interesting for Jalen Polk. It's a new destination. He seems motivated to, improve his status with everything that's happened. So Jalen Polk's certainly an interesting name to keep an eye on. And then I'll just mention Bryce Lance, the 4th-round pick from the Saints this past year, brother of Trey Lance, North Dakota State as well. He's a speedster. This is, I feel like, a Kellen Moore guy, just somebody that Kellen Moore is, obviously they drafted him, right, Kellen Moore. Someone that they're going to like a lot in this core with a lot of the other guys that they have. Like, Lance is their massive speed guy. So we'll see how much impact he has in his rookie year. Tight end wise, Juwan Johnson, Noah Fant. Those are the two guys in the building. Juwan Johnson, guy went to Penn State and also for my Oregon Ducks. He was more of a receiver in college, ended up transitioning to tight end. And he's been a stable, steady tight end. He hasn't been like a top 10 tight end in the league or anything, but he's a guy that you can depend on, and it's a guy that the offense really liked a lot last year. So another year I'm expecting of Juwan Johnson just being just steady and capable. Do I think he's going to have like a massive breakout year? I don't know. I don't know about all that, but he's going to be a guy that you can rely on, and that's what the tight end sometimes can be for. I'm going to rapid fire on the offensive line. I don't have the stats in front of me about their like Pro Football Focus grade and everything like that, but I will say I do like the Saints offensive line. Kelvin Banks Jr., their first-round pick from last year. They signed David Edwards from the Buffalo Bills. They still have Eric McCoy. They still have Cesar Ruiz, and then they have Tyrese Fuaga. So a lot of homegrown talent that they drafted, 4 of the 5, except for David Edwards, who they just signed. And I like David Edwards being added to this core. Obviously, no more Andrus Peat, another guy that they did draft. But yeah, it's a solid offensive line. I think the big jump, or actually had a really good year in his first year, Kelvin Banks Jr., but now you're expecting him to be like the franchise like left tackle, one of the better ones in football. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't mind the offensive line at all. I mean, Cesar Ruiz in a contract year maybe motivates him to be the best version of himself to make this unit even better. From a defensive standpoint, I don't hate the defense. I'm not massively in love with it either. But it's not the worst unit in football, that's for sure. They still have Cam Jordan after all these years. I'm glad Cam Jordan is still with the Saints. There were some rumors that he was going to be going elsewhere, but him not in a Saints uniform, just doesn't look right at all. So I'm glad he's still there. They still have Carl Granderson. He's just been a consistent 5-6 sack guy every year. They get like 4.5 last year. Devon Godchow still there. They just gave him an extension. Brian Brzee, their first round pick from a couple years ago. Much better 2024 than 2025, but his contract extension could be coming soon, so motivation to get that going as well. The linebacking core, depth-wise, I don't love, but I don't mind the people that are in the room, and also these are guys that can also rush the passer. I will say I'm a massive fan of Caden Ellis. He was a Saint when he got drafted, and he ended up being with Atlanta for a couple years, so certainly not awkward. Now back in the Saints building, certainly big rivals. But good to see Caden Ellis back in New Orleans because he's going to do a little bit of both. He's a linebacker that can get into coverage, and he can also rush the passer a little bit, so not too bad. Pete Werner still here on year, 6 he's going on now? Feel like I just saw him got drafted. Time does fly indeed. And I'm very glad this guy's working out here in New Orleans and not Washington. That is Chase Young. Chase Young coming out of college. And this is the sign that everything happens for a reason. I remember going back to my Giants thing for a second. Just want to ramble. There was a game that the Giants and the Commanders played. At the time, I think they were the football team. Bizarre days. And the Giants ended up winning that game, which cost them Chase Young. And the Giants ended up drafting Andrew Thomas. I think that's worked out pretty well when he's on the field. Chase Young was solid with the Commanders, and he won, pretty sure he won Defensive Rookie of the Year. But after that, he was injured, and then he got traded to New Orleans, and since then no ball knowledge moment for a second. He was traded to the 49ers, and then he ended up signing with New Orleans Saints. My piece of paper fell again. Hold on a second. I have technical difficulties. My fan going in my room. I guess that's why. But yeah, the Chase Young to New Orleans with the other pass rushers in here. Not too bad. Had 10 sacks last year. And again, sacks aren't everything, but it certainly helps an argument for sure. especially in that sort of media. The corner room, or the secondary, I should say, they're anticipating to have guys to take a big jump. Kool-Aid McKinstry, one of the best names in the business. Kool-Aid McKinstry, I'll tell you what. My breakout candidate for the Saints, I'm going to do this for every single team as well, I'll give you a little breakout candidate, someone to watch out for, is Quincy Riley, the corner in that room as well. He went to Louisville, rookie year last year, but he is expected to be one of the starting corners. I liked him a lot coming out of Louisville. I'm shocked he was on the board when he was picked by the Saints in the 4th round. It might even been the 5th round, to be honest. I'm pretty sure it was round 4. But I like a lot of what I saw in his rookie year, and even if it was in a small sample size, I think taking that big jump, I think, is something that he can do. If it's not year 2, I'm hoping to year 3. I'm going to look back at this hoping Quincy Riley is one day a fantastic player and say that I was early to the hype train of Quincy Riley. So hoping one day that is the case. Jordan Howden is still there as well as the nickel corner. Julian Blackman, Justin Reed, Jonas Sanker, that's going to make up the safety room. Veterans like Blackman, Justin Reed. Reed's a couple-time Super Bowl champ with the Chiefs. Year 2 now with New Orleans, so that should be fun. Jonas Sanker is the young guy in the room. They're trying to build up. Maybe he's more of a special teamer, competing with Julian Blackman on the depth chart. If you look it up online, Blackman's actually the listed starter, but I think Sanker can get some time in there as well. And I wrote down the special teams for this because special teams is still a very important part of football, even though some people want to discredit it. It seems like they found their kicker in Charlie Smith. He showed a lot of promise last year, and the Saints made a big signing at punter in Ryan Wright. He had a nice season with Minnesota last year. He's now in New Orleans. Kellen Moore, as I mentioned, is the head coach. For the Saints, for me, I like the nucleus around Tyler Shuck, Achane, Kamara, Olave, Tyson, Juwan Johnson, solid offensive line. Defense is, to me, kind of screams like middle of the pack, maybe even on the lower end. Because like lack of depth at linebacker, uncertainty if guys are going to make a jump in the corner room, because they did lose Alontae Taylor this past year. They lost Paulson Adebo the year before. So there's some uncertainty if some of these guys can take that jump, but they are young. They've showed some promise to where they can make that jump. So depending on those things, and depending on if Tyler Shuck takes a year 2 jump as well, which that is the hope in New Orleans. Ooh, excuse me. I like the Saints to be much better in 2026, and as I've said, this division's wide open to where we can have ourselves a battle for who wins this division, honestly, between all 4 teams. Now, the team that finished in 3rd, and the team we'll be talking about next, is the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons, they had an interest in 2025. 2026, they're hoping for some big things in a new era, that's for sure. Now, we'll see if it's a new era at quarterback, because it may or may not be Michael Penix at quarterback. It might be the other left-handed quarterback in football, that is Tua Tagovailoa. How do I feel about both guys? Well, me being an Oregon fan, I'm not the biggest Penix guy. Coming out, I wasn't even a Penix guy like for the draft, because he was a 24-year-old, which already, as I've mentioned, doesn't fit my criteria. He's had 2 torn ACLs and just had a lot of injury problems. And also being a left-handed quarterback, most when you have like the right-handed quarterback, it's such a different thing from being left-handed, because now your left tackle is essentially, or your right tackle is essentially your left tackle, and it's just bizarre overall, and it's just a big difference. And I think the worst part of that was they gave Kirk Cousins a 4-year, $180 million deal, and then a month later draft a quarterback, and they guaranteed him $100 million. Like, why would you even do that? But anyway, that's in the past. Talk about the future. On the depth chart, I looked it up. They're saying Tua is going to be the starter. I think it's still a competition. I'm not exactly sure who the quarterback's going to be yet. I really haven't gotten too much of an indication. So that we'll find out. whoever the quarterback's going to be is going to be very, very happy because the weapons, like at least the top end of the weapons, is really solid. Running back might be the best running back in the game is Bijan Robinson. Their backup is Brian Robinson. And I want to put out a message out there really quick because I saw someone on social media do this a couple years ago. And this is when they weren't on the same team. Somebody in fantasy football drafted Brian Robinson instead of Bijan Robinson. It was like the first or second, third pick in the draft. They're like, oh, I'm taking Bijan Robinson. And then they actually ended up finding out it was Brian Robinson. Now that they're on the same team, please do a deep dive before you draft Bijan Robinson and make sure it's Bijan Robinson and not Brian Robinson. Because if you do that, that's on you. I've taken it. It's out of my hands now. It's all up to you if you decide to do that. So, but that's that announcement. From a receiver standpoint, again, the top end guy is great. I'm not the biggest fan of the depth on this team. I only found like one other, like I have 4 receivers written down. For some teams, I'm going to write 6. Some teams, I'm going to write 5. There might even be some teams I write like 7 or 8, depending on, if there's like a really healthy wide receiver competition going on. But for the Falcons, I only wrote down 4 names. I mean, the first name I clearly wrote down was Drake London, because Drake London is one of, in my opinion, the top 10 to 15 best receivers in football, and I would probably lean him more towards being a top 10 receiver. Drake London is fantastic. He's unbelievably good. He's not just a guy that goes up and gets it and that's his game. He's way more than that. And despite the situation of the bizarre room of quarterbacks that he has had in his short career, he's put up numbers, and he's gotten better each year, and he just got paid like a elite receiver. So shout out Drake London, even though you went to USC. But after that, I mean, Jahan Dotson, Olamide Zaccheaus, by the way, former Falcon, now back with Atlanta, Olamide Zaccheaus. Unless they're hoping for like a massive jump from a Jahan Dotson, I think the room outside of Drake London is questionable, to say the least. I will say they did draft Zachariah Branch out of Georgia, so he gets to stay home, which is nice for him. And he's been turning heads in the little rookie mini camp, OTAs, and I assume training camp he'll do the same. So this is probably like not my breakout candidate for them, but this is because he's a rookie. You can't break out. I guess you can break out as a rookie. But I'm thinking, when I think breakout, I'm thinking guys that had played like a year and then like their next year they just pop off. So that's really all I have in the room to even really talk about, because the other names I was looking at, I will learn them as I go on, but I didn't really see too much outside of that. Tight end room is simple. Kyle Pitts, Austin Hooper, another former Falcon back in the building. And Kyle Pitts is an interesting case for fantasy owners. I know hate Kyle Pitts. Maybe they hate the coaches that didn't really utilize Kyle Pitts in the right way to score touchdowns. But when Kirk Cousins was the quarterback for Atlanta last season, Kyle Pitts was putting up numbers. And now that he doesn't have Kirk Cousins anymore, maybe those numbers fall apart again. Well, hope they don't, because he just signed a massive 3-year contract to stay in Atlanta after months of dispute on his contract situation. So we'll see what Kyle Pitts is able to do with a potential new quarterback, or just Michael Penix once again. And Austin Hooper, I'm not expecting too much from stats-wise from him, just a veteran in the room to help with everyone. And hey, maybe end his career on the place that it started. So that's cool. Offensive line-wise, I don't hate it. Let's just be thankful they have one guy. That's for sure. If obviously people that are football fans watching this video, you know the guy that I'm talking about. I mean, it's still cool to see Jake Matthews on the Falcons entering year 13. Just been a solid player his whole career. I imagine his career is coming up in a matter of maybe this season or two. But it's cool to see Jake Matthews still be the left tackle of the Falcons. Matthew Bergeron as the left guard. He's entering his contract year, so he's got to show what he's got to get himself paid either by Atlanta or someone else. So we'll see on there. Now, I'm apologize to Falcons fans if I'm not really familiar with the name Ryan Newsel. That's who they have as the center right now on the Falcons. I'm not too familiar. My apologies. The name I am very familiar with, and football fans are familiar with, as one of the best guards in football, is Chris Lindstrom. Been an absolute baller since getting to Atlanta. He's been in the Pro Bowl multiple years in a row. And he is the absolute building block of this offensive line. So that's awesome. Right tackle is not so awesome for me. It's Juwan Taylor. Chiefs fans, we're not big fans of Juwan Taylor. And the Chiefs traded him away to Atlanta for this reason. Atlanta needed to improvise because they lost Caleb McGarry to retirement. Caleb McGarry next to Chris Lindstrom is not a bad pairing whatsoever. But they needed to opt for Taylor, and they didn't have a first-round pick to get anybody rookie-wise. So Juwan Taylor it is. And I don't think Juwan Taylor is an awful right tackle. I just don't think he's a particularly good one either. So we'll see how that works. On top of that, he's the right tackle unless you're going to move him from right to left, because now it's a left-handed quarterback in the room. So the right tackle becomes extremely important because he now becomes the blindside blocker. Do you trust Juwan Taylor with that? I really don't, unfortunately. So that's the offensive line. Now, I will say I do like this Falcons defense quite a bit. First of all, because they were really good last year. And on top of that, even with a new head coach coming into the building, they were able to keep the defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich. So that's awesome to see. They brought in Deshaun Hand. So not a bad piece to add whatsoever. And Brandon Dorlus, shout out to Brandon Dorlus, an Oregon alumni. And Zach Harrison. Zach Harrison, when he was on the field, was really solid from a sacks perspective. I don't really have the numbers in front of me from a pressure standpoint, but I think he played 7 or 8 games, had 4.5 sacks. That's really solid stuff from Zach Harrison. So hopefully a full year with him and Brandon Dorlus, they can make up a pretty solid room. From a linebacker, pass rusher standpoint, they are now in year 2 of Jalen Walker. He showed some flashes in year 1 to where he could be... I actually don't even know if I had a... Yeah, screw it. Jalen Walker is my breakout candidate. I was going to put somebody else, but he was a Defensive Rookie of the Year finalist. So I'm like, oh, can he break out even more? I guess he could, obviously. Maybe be one of the better guys at his position. We'll get to him in a second. But Jalen Walker, I think he could absolutely be a breakout candidate. Divine Diablo is here once again, so he's familiar with the system. They signed Christian Harris over from the Houston Texans. His thing's been health, but when he's been on the field, he's been a solid player. Excuse me. The name I wasn't going to bring up for the breakout candidate, but was also a Defensive Rookie of the Year finalist, is James Pierce Jr. Not going to get into his off-the-field stuff. Just going to not open that can of worms. But James Pierce Jr., the football player, was really solid. He showed some flashes. He had 10 sacks. Do I agree with trading a first-round pick for the next year to get him? At the time, no. But if he ends up being a long-term starter for them and is, fantastic, if he can just stay, keep the stuff keep everything great on the field while also being great off the field, this will probably be a trade that is worth it. But also, the Rams took a quarterback with that pick, so if he ends up being the franchise guy and is a top 10 quarterback in football for his whole career, then obviously that changes things. But they drafted Harold Perkins pretty late. I imagine his first year is not going to be too crazy as well. And I just found this funny as a Giants fan. They have Azeez Ojulari. Giants fans remember Azeez Ojulari. He was solid for us, but just another guy riddled by injuries. The corner room is fun to talk about because they have brothers in arms on their corner room, AJ Terrell and Avion Terrell. AJ's, of course, big brother, one of the better corners in all of football. They just drafted Avion Terrell this past draft. It was an awesome moment to see. I like Avion Terrell. He had a little bit of an injury thing in the draft process. I guess hence that's why he fell to round 2, where I thought he probably could have ended up being a late first-round pick. But things happen for a reason, right? Avion Terrell joined his brother in Atlanta. Mike Hughes was listed as a starter in Atlanta. Again, working under the same scheme, I think that's not like too bad. And then their nickel corner is Billy Bowman Jr. Couldn't play some safety as well, but he's been playing mostly nickel, so not too bad. I love the safety tandem they have here with Jesse Bates, who I still think is one of the best safeties in all football. The other guy I was going to mention for a breakout candidate was Xavier Watts. Really, really solid year for him. I liked the pick at the time when they made it out of Notre Dame, and he has shown a lot of promise so far, and he could be that guy that also could be certainly a breakout candidate, and that might actually be a better choice considering he is going to be a guaranteed starter. Not that Jalen Walker isn't, but also he's playing next to one of the better guys in football in Jesse Bates. And I just put Sidney Brown on here as well, just for some special teams, and the Falcons did make a trade for him, so they certainly have a purpose for Sidney Brown. Kicker-wise for the Falcons and punter, if anyone cares, they did sign old man Nick Folk. It's like the only part of the Jets that was good last year. And now it's gone. So, anyway, now the Jets we'll get to in a separate pod, obviously, with all these divisions, so stay tuned. But Nick Folk signing a deal with Atlanta. They still have Jake Bailey. So definitely an improved special teams unit, at least for the Falcons. And Kevin Stefanski is the head coach of Atlanta, his first year as the head coach. 2-time coach of the year for the Cleveland Browns. But now headed into a new era with Atlanta. My thing is the defense I like a lot because it's the same defensive coordinator, a lot of the same players, and you're going to get a lot of the same things. And I think Kevin Stefanski is a much better head coach than Raheem Morris because Stefanski had made it work with the Cleveland Browns. Think about that. So my reservation is the quarterback. And it probably shouldn't. I guess it should be. But you look at the people around to help the quarterback be better. Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Like, how could it not work? It's just a feeling I get. And I think it's just the belief that I don't have in Tua or Michael Penix Jr. I think this is a team that is the definition of a couple teams in the league. But this is one of them that is a quarterback away. And what that means is if they had a competent quarterback room, aka a franchise guy, I think this is absolutely a perennial playoff threat and maybe even close to a Super Bowl contender. Maybe I wouldn't go that far. It's the Atlanta Falcons, but at the end of the day, I think they're on the cusp of something great. It's just they have to figure out the quarterback room. Maybe the answer is in the quarterback room right now, but it's going to take a while for me to believe in that. So, but that's the Falcons preview. Second place in this division was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kind of feels weird that they're not in first place. They've been in first in this division for quite a bit. But last year was a down year. I think mostly it was an injury thing, but I think Bucs fans are looking for something fresh in the head coaching department, and they didn't get that wish. So we'll see. It feels like do or die for Todd Bowles. But the Buccaneers quarterback Baker Mayfield, I will admit I was not the biggest Baker guy. Out of college, I didn't hate Baker Mayfield, but I did have better quarterbacks on my board at the time. But Baker proved me wrong. And at the end of his Browns tenure, I know he had the whole shoulder thing going on, but I still was not a big believer in Baker at all. And then he went to Carolina, and I ended up going to the Giants game when they played the Panthers, and Baker Mayfield was the quarterback. And Baker did not have a good game at all. And at that point, I'm I just don't know how Baker gets back into being a franchise guy. And he got the opportunity with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he ran with it. He absolutely ran with the opportunity, and he's been the guy ever since, and they're going to try and re-up him for a contract. I know those negotiations are still going on. I don't know if they're going to get it done before the season or after. But we'll find out on that front. But Baker Mayfield's the starter. I hope they don't get to see the backup. That's Jake Browning. Bengals fans will tell you Jake Browning was absolutely horrible this past year in 2025. They had to go trade for 41-year-old Joe Flacco when Joe Burrow was hurt because Jake Browning was so bad with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins over there in Cincinnati. So, yeah, really hope Jake Browning doesn't see the field for the Buccaneers, for Buccaneers fans' sakes. The running back room's not too bad. There's not like a top-end guy by any means, but they have some solid players in here. Bucky Irvin, another Oregon guy, by the way. I didn't pick this division just to talk about guys from Oregon, but it just happens to be that way. A little bit more of an injury-riddled season for Bucky in 2025. Awesome in 2024, so hoping he can get back to more of the 2024 stuff. They signed Kenneth Gainwell in the offseason. I don't hate the signing by any means, but I thought personally they were going to give more love to Sean Tucker as the backup and then draft somebody in the draft as their third running back. But no, they signed Kenneth Gainwell. Had a nice little breakout year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So see what he's able to do. And they still have Sean Tucker. So on certain downs, I'm sure they will use him as well. Now, I wrote down 6 receivers for Tampa because a lot of these guys were playing last year because a lot of injuries happened with the Buccaneers receiving corps. One of them included Mike Evans, which not writing his name in a Buccaneers setting is absolutely bizarre. It's I had to make sure I wasn't losing my mind because Mike Evans not being a Buccaneer just doesn't sound right. But new era, we're moving on. Seemingly, and they're going to go with a little bit more of a younger talent vibe. But Chris Godwin's still here. Again, him on the field is a really, really solid player. But that's been a concern for him is staying on the field. So, but I'm a really big fan of Chris Godwin. My breakout candidate is in this receiver core, and that is Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. In 2025. He had some fun moments in the very beginning of 2025. He had a bit of a hamstring issue. And, had some good moments the rest of the year here. I think he was playing through that injury as well, hence why the numbers weren't overly like JSN type numbers. But I think he could absolutely break 1,000 yards this year, maybe even get close to 1,100, 1,200 yards. So I'm looking forward to that, of course, being on the field. Jalen McMillan is the receiver 3 in this core. All of these I'm looking at the depth chart as well, what's listed online. Jalen McMillan is a solid player. Again, injuries. He had a whole neck issue last year a little bit, so he was only able to play 4 or 5 games. Might even be a little bit more than that, but Jalen McMillan, not a bad player. Again, fully healthy. Maybe he can take a jump. Again, this is a much younger core than it was before. And then they got Ted Hurst, who they drafted in this past draft in the 3rd round out of Georgia State. I was a massive Ted Hurst fan coming out of the draft. Wanted the Giants to get him. They ended up with another bigger receiver as well. But Ted Hurst is a big dude. Go up and get it type of guy. And then they got 2 Johnsons. They got Tez Johnson and they got Cameron Johnson. Tez Johnson, another Oregon alumni as well. Tez showed some flashes this past year when he was given the opportunity. But when guys came back, he kind of fell back into line. So we'll see what that looks like this year. Tight end wise, only name I wrote down here was Cade Otton. I think they still have Devin Culp. I don't know if he's the tight end 2 or 3. But Cade Otton's the one they brought back on that 3-year deal for $30 million, or is it 33? He's a security blanket for Baker Mayfield. Baker likes him a lot, so I don't hate that either. I keep because I want to rest the paper on my leg, but it's just not cooperating with me, but as right on cue. But you get to the offensive line. I like this offensive line a lot for Tampa because it's the same offensive line. It's the the exact same as what they had last year. You want continuity for a line. We've seen players on offensive lines before fall apart because there's just so much movement. But when it's a lot of the same guys that they're familiar with, it builds continuity. So Tristan Wirfs being the left tackle, absolutely fantastic. Tristan Wirfs is a multi-time All-Pro, Super Bowl champion. The one that got away from my Giants is Ben Bredeson. He's been a solid player for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to where he wasn't as... He was solid with the Giants as well, but we chose him, or we let Bredeson go over other guys we chose. A little annoying. Graham Barton's the center, former first-round pick. You're hoping for him to take a nice jump. Cody Mock's in a contract year, so you're hoping for him to be motivated to get his money, right? And get his money, which means performing well. And Luka Decky is the right tackle who just got paid a massive extension due to the breakout year he just had, even though, like, obviously not a lot of people are paying attention to offensive linemen like that, but he got paid like a very damn near elite right tackle. So that's Luka Decky. Defense overall is not... It's definitely a new era, that's for sure. I mean, no Levante David anymore. That also was kind of weird, not writing down his name. But defensive line-wise, you got Elijah Roberts. They signed Ashawn Robinson. They still have Kalijah Cansey if he's ever on the field. Of course, the massive building block for years has been Vita Vea. He's getting up there. Was he like now 30, 31 years old? Players at his position, they are out of the league sooner than, like pass rushers and you go to offensively, like quarterbacks and corners and all that kind of fun stuff. But Vita Vea demands a lot on that defensive line. So hoping those kind of guys I mentioned can take some pressure off of him. They re-signed Rakeem Nunez-Roches, who was a Giant. Maybe he gets some time, but he's also a guy that's up there in age. From a pass rusher standpoint, they got some guys to mix in, but the main piece is who they drafted in the first round. That's Reuben Bain. And the fact that he was there at 15th overall makes no sense. There was some concerns, I guess, regarding some off-the-field stuff. But when he was there at 15, I'm like, they have to take Reuben Bain. Like, it's perfect. First of all, he Miami alumni, so he gets to stay in Florida. And he is an immediate starter. And with the 15th overall pick, getting an immediate starter is absolutely fantastic value. Anthony Nelson, still a guy they use quite a bit. Chris Braswell maybe gets some time. Yaya Diaby entering a contract year. So, again, I use that word motivation. Maybe he can put it all together here and figure it out. They signed Al Muhammad from the Lions. Sack numbers were high, 11 sacks. And he's also a veteran as well, up there in age, so maybe you can figure that out. From a linebacker perspective, obviously no more Levante David. They signed Alex Anzalone. This is a player you want on your team, leader of men. So that's Alex Anzalone. Christian Roseboom they signed as well. From the Carolina Panthers. He was on the Rams for a little bit as well. And you also, I lost my spot here, Josiah Trotter, who they drafted in round 2. And at this point, Levante David, I'm pretty sure, was already retired, so they needed to fill that hole. Not a bad pick whatsoever. From a corner defensive backroom perspective, they still have Zion McCollum. It's not a bad player whatsoever. You're hoping for a jump from Benjamin Morrison. This was their second-round pick last year. And they probably had bigger expectations for him in year 1, but they had Jamel Dean, and Jamel Dean is now no longer there. So now, next man up mentality. Benjamin Morrison hoping to take over that role. Haven't seen too much of him as of yet, but now in an actual full-on starter role, you can hopefully expect solid things from what we saw at Notre Dame. If I had to pick a breakout candidate on defense, I really like Jacob Parrish. The slot corner, super quick. Super quick. And, I saw a lot of flashes from Jacob Parrish in year 1, and I would hope he takes a massive year 2 jump. Sorry, that was a little more vague than I wanted, but I'm a massive Jacob Parrish guy, so hopefully he breaks out as well to make this club age very nicely. And then they drafted Keontae Scott out of Miami, so you pair him up with Ruben Bain on that defense, so continuity there is nice. And he shouldn't have been there in round 4, in my opinion. I thought he should have been. If it was round 4, he should have been picked a little bit earlier. But also, I liked him in round 3, personally. Safety-wise, I like Tyke Smith. Not too bad, but the room is going to revolve around Antoine Winfield Jr., that is. Super Bowl champion with the Buccaneers in his rookie year when Tom Brady was still in-house. And he's been one of the better safeties ever since. And he got paid like it, and he's still man in that room. So, shout out to Antoine Winfield Jr. Kicker punter, if again, some people don't care, I'm just going to mention it anyway. Just going with the flow here. Chase McLaughlin, still the kicker. Riley Dixon, former Giant, by the way, is the punter. Todd Bowles being the head coach. As I kind of alluded to, I think this is the last chance. If Tampa doesn't make the playoffs, I think you got to let Todd Bowles go. And I don't know how you don't. And there was even some things about him being fired after 2025, but they decided to not do it. And it's kind of wild that they didn't do it because you look at how many head coaches are new, how many jobs were available, and how many great candidates there were out there, and Tampa Bay stuck through and went, okay, no, we're just going to keep Todd Bowles. And I don't think Todd Bowles is a awful head coach, but I don't think he's particularly like the greatest head coach either. So we'll see. Baker Mayfield contract extension up in the air, new era in the wide receiver core, new era in the linebacker room. I like the offensive line, obviously, as I kind of mentioned. Young corner room. A lot of young talent here. You're kind of hoping for everybody to work out. And again, this is a very wide open NFC South. So Tampa, absolutely, if those players that I mentioned take those jumps and even some more that I haven't mentioned, they absolutely are a threat to win the South. And this is one of those divisions where I think every team is a threat to win the division, which is pretty cool. And we'll end this off with the division winners. Maybe not saying much because they only won 8 games, 8-9 their record was. Actually, 3 teams finished 8-9. It was Tampa, Atlanta, and then this team who ended up getting the tiebreaker from it. That's the Carolina Panthers. Bizarre to think the Panthers won the division, but this is a team on the rise, and even with a team that won 8 games, were able to compete in a playoff game against the Los Angeles Rams. And they ended up beating the Los Angeles Rams in the regular season. Pretty bizarre. But you get to the quarterback room. Bryce Young is still the QB, and as he should be. However, I will agree with the Panthers in not giving him a long-term extension. We've seen certain teams give extensions out. 2 guys and 2 quarterbacks after their 3rd year and just hand them, the bag on a silver platter. But the Panthers want to be 100% sure that Bryce is the guy. As far as I'm aware, they accepted that 5th-year option. Yeah, they accepted that 5th-year option for sure. But they don't want to, commit long-term until they see a massive jump. And it's possible that this is the year they take because it's been a process. And to think he got benched at one point, came back, looked solid, and then puts together another solid year to where they won the division. I think Bryce Young absolutely can be the guy in Carolina. And this is probably the best team he's probably had. And he's still got the same head coach. It was not like they changed coaches because it was Frank Reich in the beginning. And then they moved to Canales, so that's a process. And then he had year 2 of Canales, and now he's got year 3. So having that relationship to where it's not a revolving door of just people all the time is absolutely a good thing. I will say I think they downgraded at backup quarterback. So hope for Panthers fans, you don't have to see Kenny Pickett. I actually didn't mind Andy Dalton as the backup quarterback. He reminds me a lot of Jacoby Brissett, who we'll get to obviously at a later time. Just a guy that is good enough to win you a couple games if you need him to. But also, he's not particularly like fantastic anymore, but he's like solid enough. Like Kenny Pickett, I just have no redeeming qualities of him being a good player at all. So hopefully you don't have to see Kenny Pickett, respectfully, of course. From a running back room perspective, I think there's a lot of questions in the air of how good it can be, but I think it can be solid. I still like Chuba Hubbard. I know there was a little bit of a thing with him, and like he got hurt, and then Rico Dowdle comes in and throws up 200 yards for the next 2 games, and then it's Dowdle's room now, and Hubbard's like, that was my spot, but they had to go with the hot hand, and that was Rico Dowdle, and Dowdle ended up getting paid by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So now that he's out the door, it's Hubbard's room again. So, and when he was the starter, he wasn't too bad, and he caught passes out of the backfield. So, yeah, I mean, this is a solid player, and hopefully he has Jonathan Brooks to work with him. I still like Jonathan Brooks, like the prospect coming out of Texas. Hook him. I'm not going to throw this. You know what? Why not? I'm an Oregon fan, but hook him. But no, Jonathan Brooks is a fun player. Again, when on the field, I feel like we kind of talked a lot about that today. It's good when they're on the field, but the question is, how much are you going to be on the field? And Dave Canales continues to swear by it, that Jonathan Brooks is a big part of what they're going to do, and like, to just watch, like, this kid's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to it if we get to see him. And they have the actual brother of Travis Etienne, who we were talking about earlier, Trevor. I said Etienne. Etienne. Bear with me. I'm going to try and get that down. But when you call a guy by his last name for years, and it's just simply not, it does throw you off a little bit. Sorry, I was thinking about throwing. I thought about the hook 'em I just throw. I actually realized that it's this, actually. I threw that. Anyway. Oregon, ride or die. Ride or die. I want to make that very clear. But from a receiver room perspective, I actually like the room a lot. I think it's a pretty... it's not an elite room by any means. It's not Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. It's not Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams. But it's pretty solid overall. T-Mac, of course, Tetaroa, McMillan being the main piece. The offensive rookie of the year in 2025. I saw something today that he gained 8 to 9 pounds of muscle. So he's already a big dude as it is. So adding more to that. I like that a lot. So expecting a nice year out of T-Mac. If you are a fantasy football player, and no, I'm not jumping on the hype from other people that I've seen this from. I forget who. My apologies to who said it. But I do believe in the Jalen Coker hype. So if you're a fantasy player, maybe not extraordinary early, but at least keep in mind of Jalen Coker. I think he is my breakout candidate for this Carolina Panthers team. I think he'll be the very clear receiver 2 by the end of this season, barring health. They still have Xavier Legette. I don't mind Xavier Legette as a player, but I think Panthers fans probably expect a little bit more considering he was a first-round pick. The vibes with Legette are immaculate, though. His press conferences are fantastic. But we need to see a little bit more on the field from him. They drafted Chris Brazell. I was a big Chris Brazell guy coming out of Tennessee. So that's not too bad. And they still have Jimmy Horn Jr., probably more so as a kick returner for them. Tight end-wise, they didn't improve, and I thought they were going to in the draft. I thought they were going to take Kenyon Sadiq, but they didn't even get the chance to do that. So they're sticking with the same room. Tommy Tremble, Jatavion Sanders, Mitchell Evans. No one, awful by any means. No one that you, want to bang your head against the desk that they're in your room. But no one that really screams, exciting by any means. When you get to who's going to be making, the biggest impact, offensive weapon-wise, you're looking at Hubbard, you're looking at T-Mac, Jalen Coker, like those guys. So tight end room, again, they're going to throw to the tight end. But the numbers are not going to blow you away. So that's what we got. Now, the offensive line is a interesting one here for Carolina because typically the tackles would be different, but they're actually going to start off with 2 other guys. And good thing that they added to this unit with everything going on. So as of right now, the left tackle is Rasheed Walker. They signed him to a $10 million deal for 1 year. So that's not like too bad. There was a rumor he wanted so much money when he was a free agent, so he ended up settling for a 1-year deal. They still have Damian Lewis. Luke Fortner's there. Robert Hunt is the right guard. He's their best offensive lineman when he's on the field because he was hurt a lot last year, and then when he came back, the offensive line improved dramatically. So shout out Robert Hunt. And then as of right now, the chance is going to go to Monroe Freeland, the first-round pick out of Georgia. The reason that is going to be the case is because, first of all, Ike Mekwonu, the usual left tackle, tore his ACL in the playoff game, so he's not going to be ready for the season. And I just got the update, like a day or two ago from when I'm recording this, that Taylor Moden has a blood clot in his lung. Prayers up for Taylor Moden. Hope he is okay and in good health. But for the start of the year, it's going to be Monroe Freeland, the rookie, who primarily was a left tackle in college, so now he's going to have to move to right. We'll see how that works. I've seen it not work more times than it has. So we'll see. It depends. But there is some examples like Tristan Wirfs, being a right tackle and moving to left. Penei Sewell was a left tackle at Oregon, and he moved to right for a while, and he's now going to be the left tackle this year, and he was all pro at right tackle. So it can work. It just depends on the system around you. Defensively, this unit absolutely improved. It wasn't a particularly fantastic unit, but what they did, I think, the right way was they added to what was their weakness. So now, not saying those things are a particular strength, but they improved those units dramatically with 2 massive sign-ins. But you start with the defensive line. It starts and ends with Derek Brown, their first-round pick from some years ago now. He is one of the better defensive tackles in all of football. Bobby Brown, you got right next to him as well. Tershawn Wharton, the veteran in the room. You got LeBron Ray, who's going to get some time. But again, this all starts and ends with Derek Brown. The way that he's able to stop the run and provide pressure on the quarterback. Sack numbers aren't going to blow you out of the water like a Myles Garrett with 22.5 sacks. But if you can be able to, plug the run and be able to put pressure on the quarterback and disrupt plays, that to me means more than the amount of sacks you get. Sometimes. Depends on the player. But most of the time. You get to the pass rushers, and I got this news a little bit before I started recording. So this is updated. Nick Scordon, the Texas A&M pass rusher for Carolina, had a promising rookie year, was hoping to have some big things in year 2. Their training camp opened today, and he unfortunately tore his ACL. It's the nature of the beast. It is extremely unfortunate. It sucks, especially for a kid that's going into his second year with expectations of making a really big jump. He could have been a breakout candidate for me as well, but now he doesn't get that chance. Unfortunately, he's going to be out for the entire year. So again, prayers up for Nick Scordon. Hope everything with recovery goes extremely well, and that he can be able to attack 2027. With a vengeance and with a purpose. But good thing they signed Jalen Phillips, right? For a lot of money, 4 years, $120 million. It's a lot of money, but this business sometimes has to be about overpaying, and a lot of people get overpaid in this business. That's how it goes. But sometimes when you have players like this, you don't look at the money, you look at what they can give you. And Jalen Phillips is a disruptor. Again, He has had some injury concerns. I think that's more so why I'm pushing back on the deal being like this fantastic deal, is because he has torn his Achilles. And, I always forget this with some other players, but I'm pretty sure he tore his Achilles and then he tore his ACL. He might have torn his Achilles twice. But either way, he's had massive injuries. And, he did come back from those. He was with Miami. He got traded over to the Eagles. He was really, really good with the Eagles. But ultimately ended up on Carolina, signing this big deal. And he's now going to be a bigger part of that now with no longer Nick Scordon being there. And then I'm going to even try and pronounce the Ole Miss pass rusher. Is it Prince Umani Milan? I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. My apologies. Names aren't my strong suit, like we were talking about earlier with like Sandro Mamu, Kelashvili. But he's just, again, guy that had shown some promise. So, again, he's probably going to have to take that step up now, no longer with Nick Scordon being in the room. The two linebackers that are going to take up the middle, Trevin Wallace, shown some promise. So I don't mind him at all. He pops off on tape for me. And they made the massive signing of Devin Lloyd for 3 years, $45 million, I believe it was. I was a big fan of... I hate that I was a big fan of Devin Lloyd out of Utah, because Utah at the time was a Pac-12 school with Oregon, but he was awesome at Utah. He disrupted Oregon quite a bit. But he's been solid with the Jaguars. But 2025 is when he really broke out into being a damn good linebacker, and signed the deal with the Panthers to be the main guy in the middle. And I really like that signing a lot. I thought he'd get even more money than he actually did. So, shout out Devin Lloyd. From a corner room perspective, defensive back room perspective, J.C. Horn is where it starts and ends. This is one of the better corners in football. He's had some injury issues in the past, but 2025 he was playing quite a bit, and he was a damn good player doing it. Michael Jackson also being in the room. Very underrated corner. Watch him next to J.C. Horn. Not much was happening on the side of Michael Jackson. You look at the stats of the quarterbacks and their passer ratings when targeting him. I think it was again, the numbers aren't completely in front of me. I think it was in the 60s. The average passer rating that you want, for a quarterback, if you're a quarterback, the average you're looking for is 88. And obviously you're aiming for higher than that. So when you target Michael Jackson, you throw the ball at him, he's averaging a 61 passer rating. That's the QB's passer rating while targeting Michael Jackson. So that tells you how solid he was this past year, and I believe he's also entering a contract year. So big payday coming for him. Chow Smith-Wade is going to be the nickel corner. Not too bad overall, but you look at the safety room. Nick Scott is still there. The big signing of Trevon Merrick last year. Solid player overall. And they still have Lathan Ransom, probably more of a special teamer, but I wanted to mention him because sometimes you get to see 3 safety sets in the NFL. And then kicker and punter, if it's, again, want to mention it just with everybody. I think they figured it out with Ryan Fitzgerald. Showed some massive promise last year, so now fully acquainted into the system. We'll see what he's able to do. Sam Martin, the veteran, coming back for another season as well. I had mentioned that Dave Canales is the head coach. And as for the Panthers, this is a fun roster that improved in the areas it needed to improve, linebacker with Devin Lloyd, Jalen Phillips. Of course, now with Nick Scordon going down, Jalen Phillips is now a even bigger part to what they need to do. They added depth on the offensive line to guys that aren't going to be there right away. Breakouts in the room, hopefully, at receiver, like Jalen Coker, maybe even Xavier Leggett can have a better year than he's had in the past. And you don't want to say it all starts and ends with the quarterback, but here it could absolutely start and end with Bryce Young, because Bryce Young is in a prove-it phase to where he needs to prove to the Panthers that he's worth the money that hypothetically the Panthers are going to give him. So I'm looking forward to watching the Panthers. Who's the favorite in this division? As I kind of mentioned, this is a really wide open division as it is. It's probably the most wide open division in all of football. I will have a segment down the line right before the season starts of my division predictions, season predictions overall. So I'll come up with that then. Right now it's July 23rd. So we're still relatively early in the phase of trying to figure out division winners and playoff predictions and Super Bowl winners and all that stuff. But the Panthers just winning the division and getting, better defensively and having breakout candidates on offense and the same head coach and Dave Canales, who might be the best head coach in the division. If it's not him, then it's Stefanski probably. It's a conversation to be had. So time will tell on those things. We will see. But that's going to end it for this episode. It went a little bit longer than maybe I was intending, but sometimes that's kind of what happens with these things. I'm a yapper at heart, so that's sometimes that's just what just happens. Closing thoughts. I mean, I really don't have any, to be honest. I mean, we'll talk another division next time. That's the only thing really I have for the next episode coming up. From an upload schedule standpoint, I don't really have a particular day in mind, like set in stone of when episodes are going to go out. I'm just going to kind of record and make sure the video is good to go out. And when I think it's good to go, I'll put it out there. Sometimes it'll be one episode a week. Other times it's going to be maybe 2 episodes. If I can get 3 out, great, fantastic. But I'm probably going to try and aim for our 1 or 2 episodes a week early on. So stay tuned for what's next. For the stuff in the background here, I was mentioning in the previous little beginning episode. Stay tuned for that. I don't have the full details of what I want to talk about there yet, so I'm not going to try with that as of right now. But I should have some details soon regarding that. So I'm not going to try and spill the beans too much, so stay tuned. If you stayed for the entirety of this episode, genuinely, thank you so much. Seriously, it means the absolute world. As I kind of mentioned in the beginning episode, the journey, I'm looking forward to it. And building a community with people that love sports just as much as me and just want to have a conversation about it. And yeah, I'm losing my words now, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, until next time, thank you guys so much. Again, I preface it one more time. If you did stay till the end, it means the absolute world. Thank you so much. I will put timestamps in this video. I probably should have mentioned that in the beginning of like certain like if I'm talking about the NBA at a certain like point in the video, I'll post like it'll be in the video. You'll see it, and then I will also post the link or not the links. I'm still trying to figure out the links as of right now. Once I get that all figured out, I will post them. But I'll be putting my Instagram and Twitter in the description below. Thank you guys so much. It's all appreciated. And until the next episode, God bless. Take care.